When we talk about trading, there is a fear, right? And that fear causes us to make mistakes.
Certainly.
So how does emotional intelligence plays in trading?
I think it's the most important thing. It is the most important thing. And there are two emotions that basically enslave humans, and that's fear and regret, right? If a stock
Mm-hmm.
is rising, you might have regret of not buying it sooner. So you eventually decide to put your money into it, and then it starts falling. Now you are fearful as to what's going to transpire. So these two emotions are always tugging away at you, which essentially means that you are not thinking straight at any time of the day. And this is very interesting about trading, and this is something people don't realize. If I buy a stock at $100, it goes to $120. I'm sitting at a 20% profit. This is a great situation, right? I sell it, I'm happy I made 20%. But this stock doesn't look back, it goes to 30, 140, 150, right? Even though I made money, now I have tons of misery because I also lost
Mm,
out on notional profits. On the other hand, if I bought a stock and it fell, then naturally I'm miserable because I just lost money. So, in both
right.
scenarios, there's tons of pain available in the market. So, if you don't have a strong mind, you're not going to survive as a trader. You're going to get burnt out, which is why, in fact, a lot of hedge funds have in house therapy now, because to outperform the market consistently on a daily basis, month to month, can have a toll on you. And no matter how good you are going to make horrible choices once in a while. To get back from this, to be more resilient in life and in the markets, it takes a very strong mind. And it is certainly a daily exercise that you must undertake, which is why traders recommend you visualize every day. You know what, a lot of traders, their pre-market routine before the market opens, they sit at that chair, it's quiet, it's comfortable, and they visualize every scenario that could transpire in the market. When the market
Mm-hmm.
opens, your stocks could actually be 10% lower. Anything can transpire in the stock market. And once you visualized how am I going to react if my stock is 10% lower, suddenly your brain is coming up with options. Okay, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to see for the first 10 minutes how the stock trades. I'm going to see whether there is some buying interest in the stock. This could be a shakeout. Okay, if it's 10% lower, I'm just going to cut my losses and see what I need to do again. Once you've visualized, you certainly have experienced every possibility that could go wrong, which means, should things go wrong, which they sometimes would, you are prepared. Your brain is no more panicking, which is something Michael Phelps speaks of. He says he's visualized every swim of his, every race. So this one time he had water in his goggles and he could barely see anything. But he said he didn't need to see because he had already played the race over and over again in his head. He knew exactly how his arm is going to go, how the water's going to go
Mm.
by, right? So if you visualized it and if you have developed emotional strength, which of course happens over time, I think you can make significant amounts of money. And should you face losses, you can bounce back quite nicely.
There's a great thing that you just said about visualization.
Yeah.
Is that you need to visualize every single day. And I know before even started the podcast, we talked about this particular thing is,
Yeah.
but let's just have like a common breakdown of, you know, not just for traders, not just for like, people in finance. How should everyone visualize in their day-to-day life, even if they're not in a business environment, or not in like finance environment?
Right. I mean, let's just talk visualization as a daily practice. It is so healthy. I've been visualizing for 20, 21 days now. I do it every day. I did it today as well. There are a lot of techniques to this, in fact. One technique is, which is obvious, you visualize your goals, your end goal, right? If you want to be a massively successful trader, you try and visualize how you're going to act, how you're going to feel once you've made that amount of money. But something that really helps me visualize is, I not only visualize the end goal, I not only think of my vision board, I also think about the steps I'll need to take every day to get to that vision. And that sort of makes it very believable for my mind. You see, I also read somewhere that if you work at Walmart and if you go into the mirror and tell yourself, oh, I'm a billionaire, your body is not buying it. Your mind is not getting fooled. It knows you work at Walmart. But if you say, okay, I want to visualize being a billionaire, and these are the steps I'm going to take. I'm going to come back, read a book on financial literacy. I'm going to start saving something from my paycheck, even if that paycheck is puny at the moment. But eventually,
Hmm.
I'm going to upgrade my skills so that I can earn a higher amount. Suddenly, things become very believable for your psyche. And once they are believable, they are certainly achievable. So visualize yourself conquering those daily habits, conquering those daily goals, which eventually leads to the larger goal. Because if we always have the larger goal in our mind, the larger goal is so far into the future, it can be very disheartening. You might think, I
Hmm.
might not ever get there. If you are, let's say, on the obese side of things, and you're visualizing a very slim body, that slim body might be 5 years away. So you're going to spend 5 years in absolute misery. But if you just visualize the steps that's going to lead to that body, then visualization becomes a very amazingly positive exercise, because I'm visualizing turning up at the gym. I'm visualizing pushing myself, and these are things I can do every day. And once I have a checklist that I can take, okay, I did it today, I get a hit of dopamine in my brain. My brain rewards me. Another aspect of visualization is popularized by this gentleman called Dan Coe. He runs a YouTube channel, which is incredible. I highly recommend it. He has something called the anti vision. So try and visualize everything that you don't want, right?
Oh,
You don't want to
wow.
be fat, you don't want to be obese. So you're not manifesting the horrible side of life. You're just visualizing what you don't want to be. Because if you don't want to be fat, now you want to think about ways to get fitter. Perhaps wake up for that morning walk. And you're gonna end up going for that walk if the pain of not being, if the thought of not being fat is driving you. If you want to grow up and play with your kids and sprint with your kids in the park, which is such a lofty goal these days, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be sitting on the bench and telling your kids, listen, I just can't, that's not a thought that you want to have, right? So
Right.
start moving today. So anyway, he has a concept called the anti-vision, and Andrew Huberman also echoes his thoughts sometimes, a similar concept. So there's tons of tips for visualization, but the best way to start visualizing today is think about consistent steps you would take, right?
Right.
And where they would lead. And secondly, visualize yourself doing them day in and day out, because half the battle is in the mind. If you
Mind, yeah.
visualize yourself waking up at 6 a.m. and your warm clothes are out there, so you just change into them and put your trainers on and you leave the house immediately. If you visualize this before, there are chances this is going to get executed, and it works for me. It might sound like something mystical, but it does work. And honestly, there's nothing to lose. Try it out. Yeah.